Take a look at this build, this build, and this build. What do they have in common? That's right, circuits. More precisely, circuit networks, also known as setworks. Circuit networks are used day to day in Factorio. Hundreds of research papers are published about them every single year. But do you really understand how they work? Have there been times where the output is unexpected? Has someone come up with the most convoluted theory trying to explain it, but end up making everything more confusing? This video will present all abnormal behaviors in circuit networks that could ruin your life. Please download the handout available at the link in the description, as you will be asked to fill them in throughout this video. What is the most complex circuit networks you have designed? A rocket cargo inventory manager?
I'm not necessarily saying what he's saying is wrong, but it's just I can't understand it. He was trying to, what is it?
A shopping mall that can make anything you want.
So yeah, this is what we use for our mall now. It's a recipe switching auto mall.
A printer that prints onto a series of belts.
Ah, isn't that beautiful?
Or a CPU.
Simuliert werden kann. Also schneller geht das nicht. Naja, ein Proof of Concept.
Write down your answer on the handout sheet now. Experiment 1. Given a box containing various items, one wants to extract its items using a stack inserter. Whenever the count of said items exceeds 16, one attaches the box to a decider combinator, checking whether anything is bigger than 16, and if so, return a checkmark. The output is then connected to an inserter, which enables when it receives a checkmark. Observe what happens when one of the items in that box reaches a count of 16. The system is stuck as the inserter has grabbed an item that has not yet exceeded 16. Although it knows that one of the items is above 16, it does not know which one, hence grabbing the incorrect item. Such mistakes are due to pure incompetence of design. If you have made such mistakes, take a time out at the back of the classroom. Exercise 1.1. The behavior of a circuit network can be analyzed by a signal analysis table. The column of the table records every relevant networks, and the rows record all entities that output into those networks. Look at the system provided in exercise 1.1 of your handout, and answer the following questions. 1.1.1. Draw the red and green wires in the system on the provided diagram. 1.1.2. Fill in the header row and column of the table. 1.1.3. Suppose the box has 10 iron plates, i.e. 10 IP. What will each entity output into each network? How will the inserter react to the total signal it receives? 1.1.4. What if the box has 16 IP? 1.1.5. Based on the above observations, give a logically sound proof of why the system on your handout is effective. You may use the principle of mathematical induction. Those who had a timeout may now come back to your seats. Experiment 2.1. We take an assembler and connect it via a red wire to a constant combinator. The constant combinator reads one green chip. Let us call the red network redwork. Set the assembler to set recipe, and the machine will now make green chips. What if we additionally set the machine to read ingredients? It would output the ingredient of the chip, which is 1 IP and 3 wires. The redwork now contains the signal of 1 chip, 1 IP, and 3 wires. Question. Now with both chip and wire in redwork, does the machine change its recipe to copper wire, or will it stay green chip? Write down your observations now. Experiment 2.2. Take another assembler and connect it via red wire to a tungsten combinator. Now the tungsten combinator reads 1 green chip, 1 IP, and 3 copper wires. Denote the red wire channel redword 2. Note that redword 2 contains the exact same signal as redword from experiment 2.1. Question. With both green chip and copper wire in redword 2, was the machine made copper wire or green chip? Write down your observations now. The reason for this discrepancy is due to the machine being able to detect that the copper wire in experiment 2.1 comes from its own output, therefore ignoring it. The reason for this behavior will only be declassified once you graduate. It is unknown if this behavior can be exploited in applications. Experiment 3.1. Connect a red wire from an inserter to an assembler. Set the inserter to read hand content. The moment the inserter grabs an iron plate, the inserter will output a signal of an iron plate. We set the assembler to enable when it receives the signal and start crafting a gear. When the inserter puts 2 iron plates into the assembler, it would be doubly activated by the stimulation of the signals and should start happily making the gear. Is this what you observe? Consider the factory as a flipboard animation. Every single split second is a page in this flipboard. On each page, entities may shout out signals into networks, or they may react to signals they receive. We say the networks are forgetful, in the sense that the content of a page is completely determined by the page immediately prior to it, and does not care about what anyone shouts in the pages preceding that prior page. On the page where the inserter grabs an iron plate, it shouts at the red channel to record 1 iron plate. However, the setting of pause means that the inserter only shouts for that 1 page, and the forgetfulness of the network means that future pages will not hear this. Hence, the assembler will only receive the signal on that single page and react to it on the single subsequent page. And certainly, it will not stay activated for long enough to craft anything. Experiment 3.2. Take a decider combinator. Connect a red wire between its input and its output. Be very careful with this process, as it causes a loop-de-loop that could trigger a worldwide panic. Wrapping walls around such combinators can always help. Set output of this combinator to 1 checkmark, plus the amount of checkmarks in its input. Set the condition of this combinator to checkmark less than 60. The moment we put down the combinator, it receives no signal, which means the checkmark less than 60 is satisfied, and it will output 1 checkmark. Since the output is connected to the input, it now receives 1 checkmark, and still checkmark less than 60 is satisfied, so it will return 1 checkmark plus 1 checkmark from its input. And now the output or input has 2 checkmarks. Then it outputs 1 checkmark plus 2 checkmarks from this new input. If we repeat this thought experiment 60 times, we will have 60 checkmarks in the input or output, at which point the condition checkmark less than 60 is no longer satisfied, and the output will be 0, and the new loop of incrementing checkmarks will begin. With the above analysis, what will happen in real life? 1. The loop continues forever, and the game cannot decide when to stop, which freezes the game, causing an overheat of your computer. 2. It takes the combinator exactly a day to analyze the input, and to only shout out the output at 8 AM the next day. Circle your choice on the handout now. The correct answer is 2. Imagine the flipboard factory. Every day at 8 AM, we will flip a page. On day 0, when the system is first placed, we see 0 checkmarks. The combinator sees this and thinks about it really hard, and decides that on day 1, when the page flips, it would shout out 1 checkmark. This continues until day 60, when we flip to page 60 and see 60 checkmarks, the Combinator analyzes this data again and decides on day 61 it should do nothing, bringing us back to the situation of day 0, where we had 0 checkmarks, and the process repeats. Now something is wrong. Have you noticed what went wrong? That's right. If everything takes one entire day to process any signal, what will they do on Saturdays and Sundays? The truth is, instead of taking the whole day, the amount of time taken to process signals is called 1 tick, which is approximately 1/60th of a second, or 0.000001929 days. Write that down. Consequently, every second, we will flip through 60 pages of our flipbook animation. Exercise 3.1.1 3.1.1.1. What we saw in experiment 3.2 is called a timer. Instead of refreshing every 60 days, how many seconds does it really take to refresh? 3.1.1.2. If Johnny has played Factorio for 2,572 hours, how many pages would his flipbook consist of? The process of loopifying a circuit can be further exploited to create a cellular structure with memory capabilities, commonly known as a or in short, MC. Exercise 3.1.2. Complete the signal analysis table for the example MC provided on your handout. While you complete your handout, watch how a structural engineer analyzes a circuit that tests Jacobi's 4-square theorem.
N is 10, dot is equal to 1. S equals N, so R if S is not equal to S on the red times what equals dot, and S is greater than 0. So adding a dot on the red value is increasing by 1. Whenever that, so this number that goes up in the logic of what's going on. We're trying to get to 1.4. I don't understand. There'll always be notches on that first tick. We're using it in a reciprocal in some way. And 30 and 20. I feel like it's got to be something mathematical. You're running loops to try and do something, but I don't know what it is.
Have you heard of an SR latch? We believe it is a Mysterio arrangement of combinators and wires that is lost to time. Today many theories have been proposed for what SR stands for, and its applications remains unknown. The Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique offers a 50,000 franc prize to whoever recreates a working SR latch. Experiment 4. Consider a decider combinator who receives an input of 1 gear, 2 wire, 3 checkmarks. Suppose the condition is set to each greater than 0, and the output is set to wire with a value of input count. What will the output be in this situation? Write down your predictions now. If you predicted 6, then you are correct. When checking the condition involving each signal, 3 checks are performed as there are 3 elements of this signal, and since each element indeed satisfies greater than 0, all 3 checks will trigger an output of 2 wires, giving a total of 6 wires. Exercise 4.1. Use first-order logic theory to compute the following. 4.1.1. What will happen if you switch the symbol each to anything? 4.1.2. What will happen if you switch the symbol each to everything? This marks the end of this lecture. Finish your handout and submit it to me as you leave the classroom. Next time, we will talk about high-speed encryption of your signals with elliptic curve cryptography to prevent enemy surveillance radars from intercepting and analyzing your messages.